This receiver right here, the Pioneer VSX-LX305. It's a lot of X's in the model number. Anyway, it changed my paradigm, just like the Matrix. So, do you want the blue pill or the red pill? Choose. Today's sponsor, once again, Hank's free-range, antibiotic-free Pomeranians. That's right, Hank has never, ever believed in stuffing Pomeranians into cages, nor do his customers believe in medical science. That's why Hank changed the Pomeranians to be antibiotic-free, to make the customers feel better. Although a whole bunch of animals die because they don't get medicine, Hank's okay with that. Not really, but the customers are. That's why Hank's here to provide them what they want. Antibiotic-free, free-range Pomeranians. Still available in the traditional 12-count box, but now you can get them individually wrapped in a Pomeranian snack pack. The red pill is actually a melatonin. It's a gummy. I give them to the children at night to try to put them to sleep. The blue pill is actually an ibuprofen. But for our purposes, it's an analogy. What? For what? It's the Pioneer VSX-LX305. It is a 9.2 channel surround sound receiver. That means you can do 4 Atmos speakers, or really whatever combination of 9 speakers you want to do. 2 subwoofers, all the good stuff. And it has all of the good stuff. A few disclaimers. This receiver was sent out by Pioneer. Any of the links in the description are affiliate links, which means if you click and buy something through them, I will get a commission. So I've been playing around, not playing around with it. I've been using the Pioneer receiver. It's an elite receiver for over a month, and I've gotten to know it pretty well. And I've been struggling. How do I do this video? How do I do this video? Do I do it where I just go through all the features and then say, yeah, it sounds great, whatever? Or do I do it a little bit differently? So I'm going to do things a little bit differently. We could talk about all the features. We could, but we're not going to. Because features for me remind me of a story. A while back, my lovely wife and I went to buy a new washer and dryer. Why? Because the old ones looked old. They still worked, but we still needed one. Anyway, we went to look at them, had to be stainless steel, had to be a certain capacity. And the deciding factor, now bear with me, okay? There is a point to this. The deciding factor upon which ones we've purchased were the features. There were a whole bunch of features, 100, 200 features in a washer and dryer. 5 years later, 6 years later, you know what? I use 3. I use the bedding setting on the washer. I use normal setting on the washer, and then occasionally the delicates setting on the washer. On the dryer, I use 2, really just 1. I use normal dry, and then I pump up the temperature to more dry. Okay? What's the takeaway? Why? Why do I talk about this? Because it's the same thing with receivers. Any of the receivers are jam-packed with everything. IMAX this, Dolby Atmos this, although Dolby Atmos is pretty cool. Streaming this, room ready this. There's a ton of features included, especially when you start to get into the more expensive receivers. So we need to start asking the question, what am I going to use? Now, it doesn't really matter with receivers, because if you're gonna get a good receiver, you're gonna get a lot of features. So we're not gonna go through all these features. There's no need to. It has everything that you need and many things that you probably don't need, and it's great. What I really consider, what I really worry about with the receiver is, does it sound good? But more importantly, is it easy to use? Because I would rather have something that sounds good and is easy to use than something that sounds fantastic and perfect and is a pain in the rear to use. Point being, there's a streamer, a music streamer recently. Sounded great, but it was almost impossible to use. So I don't like it, because you're not going to use it. Because even if something doesn't sound good as something else, if you use it more, then that's the better product. If it brings you enjoyment, that's the better product. Guess what? The Pioneer gives me a lot of enjoyment. Trigger alert, the price. It's $1,200. And before anybody gets in the comments and says, you're not the cheap audio man, let's peel this onion. Let's see what we're getting. We're getting a surround sound receiver, 9.2 channels. We're getting a 2-channel system. We're getting a DAC. We're getting, ouch, a streamer. Getting a very usable application so that you can change things from your phone, in your chair, wherever you're at, you can change things. Also, more importantly than anything else, you're getting DAC live, DAC live. And that is the biggest game changer that this receiver has to offer. $1,200 is going to start looking like a bargain here in a second. Okay, so the Pioneer has its own room correction. So Marantz, Denon, they use Odyssey on their better receivers. Room correction is you put a microphone in the middle of the room, you run the little test, and it tells you what the crossovers are, how many speakers you have, what the distance is to the sitting or where the microphone is really at. So almost all receivers have some type of room correction software or setup software. The Pioneer has something like AMAC, MAC, something like that, and it's really good. I ran it and it sounds great. Actually, I think that sounds better than the Marantz Odyssey setup that I have on my NR1711. They're both good. The Marantz is fine. I thought the integrated sound correction software in the Pioneer was a titch better. I didn't feel like I needed to tweak it as much. When I ran the Marantz stuff, it ran as fine, but then I had to tweak the crossovers a little bit. So they're both good, but it doesn't matter because I wouldn't use the Pioneers. I would use the DAC Live anyway. It's just as easy to set up. Actually, it's easier because you can use an app to get it going. Put the microphone wherever you want it to be, multiple locations if you want. And after I ran DAC Live, there was an immediate improvement in the soundstage and really the response of the speakers. I ran it multiple times with multiple speakers, but the first time I ran it was with the Wharfedale Linton, which is one of my favorite speakers. Immediate improvement in soundstage, immediate improvement in top-end clarity. It was pretty amazing. Every live stream that I've done, there's always a question about room treatment. What type of room treatment do you use? And I don't use any. I have upstairs is where I do most of my music listening in what I would call non-near field. So I do near field in the office, which is right over there, you can see it. I do regular listening upstairs, and then I do movie watching upstairs. And it's not an ideal room. There's not any room treatment upstairs. No hangies, no bass traps, nothing like that, nothing. I have furniture up there, it's carpet too. If DAC can give you similar, same, or even better results from room treatment, how much is that worth? How much does it cost to put a bunch of room treatment stuff up there? Is it $300? Probably more than $300. Is it $500? Is it $600? Because if it's $600, that's 50% of what this Pioneer costs. So now we start to see the real value proposition of this piece of equipment. At $1,200, not only are you getting a receiver, you're getting a 2-channel receiver, you're getting streamer, you're getting awesome sound. Now you're getting room treatment. It may be virtual room treatment, but it's still room treatment. And I did hear a difference. The first 10 minutes of The Rise of Skywalker is the movie that I use to test, I don't know, receivers, any home theater stuff. I always listen or watch the first 10 minutes. I listen and I watch the first 10 minutes of Rise of Skywalker. And I will tell you, when I ran DAC and then I watched that first 10 minutes, which I've seen 100 times, the room felt like it was the size of a gymnasium. No, not an echoey gym, a padded gymnasium, like where crazy people would go. And then they could do their activities during their free time, their yard time. They put them in a giant padded gymnasium. That's what I imagine the room up there sounded like. The other cool thing about DAC Live is it just takes all your speakers and puts them together, takes out all the issues with the speakers, or what it perceives to be issues with the speakers. And for my Atmos front speakers, I have an old pair of realistic speakers that actually one of my patrons, Steve, sent them to me. And they're great. They're 30-year-old realistic speakers. They're about this big. They're sealed speakers. So what I did is I just put them on an angle, fired them up towards the ceiling, just like the regular old Atmos speakers, and it did just fine. And I was getting all of the experience of the Atmos stuff with a pair of speakers that probably cost people $50 to $100. You don't need to go buy Atmos speakers for them to be Atmos speakers. DAC's gonna figure it out. 2-channel listening with the Pioneer. And I think this is really the biggest surprise that I've had, because I haven't always had, well, I rarely have a great 2-channel listening experience through a receiver. The Marantz NR1711 is probably the exception to that rule. But most of my home theater receivers have been Onkyo. I like Onkyo, it's just fine. They did a great job for home theater. But for music listening, I never ever wanted to do much of it through the Onkyo. The Marantz NR1711, bit different. It was pretty good. Actually, it was pretty great. So I was optimistic about 2-channel listening through the Pioneer. And I gotta tell you that my favorite 2-channel system, well, I have two favorite 2-channel systems, Akatika Pre and Power Amp. Those are kits. You can sometimes get them put together, but they have a long lead time. Akatika PT10 something, and then the matching Power Amp. My other favorite 2-channel system is a set of vintage Macintosh Pre and Power Amp. Preamp's a C15, Power Amp's 7170 or something like that. Monstrously powerful. Here's the funny thing about the Pioneer. So the Akatika setup, and that's with the Denafreps Aries 2, feeding both the Akatika and the Mac system. So there was slightly more instrument separation, slightly cleaner presentation through the Denafreps and the Akatika setup, okay? That comes in around $2,000, and it's just a 2-channel setup. Just a 2-channel system. My Mac system, I'm not gonna tell you what that cost. It was vintage though, all right? Vintage. The only thing the Mac did better was just palpable, powerful bass that was in a creamy, more buttery mid-range. That's it. I actually think the instrument separation on the Pioneer was better than the Mac system. Don't get me wrong, I love the Mac system. I do most of my 2-channel listening through it, but the message I'm trying to send is Pioneer, this Pioneer, the VSX-LX305, I don't even know if I'm getting it right. This Pioneer is brilliant for 2-channel listening and as good as my favorite 2-channel pieces that cost more. Maybe slightly not as good. But I'll put it to you this way. It is the best musical experience I've ever had through a home theater receiver, okay? Streaming capabilities. The Pioneer has its own application, and there is a Tidal Connect feature in it. I like Tidal Connect. Why? Because I can pull up my Tidal app, I can hit connect, and then it just connects to the Pioneer. And then I control the music through the native Tidal application. You can control Tidal through the Pioneer application. You can control any of the streaming services through the Pioneer application if you want to. But it has Spotify and Tidal Connect, and it works really, really well. And if you don't want any of that, it also has AirPlay. I think it has Chromecast. It has basically everything, and PlayFi. So if you're in a pinch and you love PlayFi for some odd masochistic reason, it's got you covered. It's like PlayFi was just thrown in here as an afterthought. Oh yeah, you want PlayFi? Yeah, it's like five cents to put in PlayFi. Here you go, boop, PlayFi. Don't use PlayFi. That's what I'm trying to say. Use Tidal Connect or Spotify Connect or the Pioneer application. They're all better than PlayFi. Every streaming platform out there is better than PlayFi. Sorry, PlayFi. It's true though. Up your game. So the app is awesome. The streaming capabilities are awesome. When I was listening to Tidal, it put really cool album art on my TV, which is awesome. I like to see the album art. HDMI. It has an HDMI on front, and I know that may be trivial to some people, but my other favorite receiver, the Marantz NR1711, does not have an HDMI input on the front. So when my daughter and I want to play some Mario Kart from her Nintendo Switch, I have to wrap around, stick it in there in the back, okay? Not with the Pioneer, right in the front. I know that probably doesn't move the needle for a lot of people. It does for me though, because it's super convenient and it's easier to set up, and then we can race Mario Karts or karts, whatever it's called. Speaking of HDMI, zero HDMI issues. If anybody has been doing home theater for a while, like myself, eARC and ARC, they haven't always been the easiest way to get. Back in the day, you'd have HDMI. Well, back in the day, you'd have like component inputs, S-video and stuff like that. Anyway, when you put an HDMI, you just plug HDMI ins and then you have one HDMI out. Fundamentally, that still should be the case. But with smart TVs now, the way that they get their audio out digitally is usually through an optical connection or through an HDMI ARC or eARC connection. Well, it's not always easy and it doesn't always work, especially on my Marantz. Now, Marantz knew that they were having some HDMI issues and they fixed that. My NR1711, which is still available now to buy, it's still the newest model or a model that's available. They figured out they had some HDMI problems, so they fixed it. But mine was before the fix. So their fix for mine is to send me an HDMI external box that works instead of the internal HDMI. Like 6 months out though, I still don't have it. I guess I'm saying all this because I never had one problem, never one dropout. Never you turn on the TV and all of a sudden there's no signal to the receiver. Not one. It was seamless. It was the best HDMI ARC and eARC experience I've ever had on a receiver. And again, I have been doing this for a while. And every receiver, except for this Pioneer, it's quirky. Quirky in some way. Not the Pioneer, rock solid, awesome experience, never had one HDMI issue. And there's like 8 HDMI ports. Yeah, it passes 8K and 4K, whatever. It's gonna do everything you need it to do. Everything. Probably better than any other receiver out there. So it has all the features. Again, we're not talking about features today. We're talking about the soul of this Pioneer. That's what we're talking about today. Final thoughts. Too many features to talk about. It has everything you need though. If you go into the surround modes, it has DTS and Neural X and height this and height that, Dolby Digital Plus, Atmos, whatever you want. For music, you have Dolby Music, you have concert hall, jazz club, all these different DSP settings. There's a ton of them. If you want to explore them, great. They're there for you. Personally, for me, I just left it on direct. So whatever the source material was, that's what it played. With, I think I used Dolby Music. And then if you have Dolby Atmos music, which is pretty cool because there are a lot of Dolby Atmos mixed music tracks now. And it will play through your, so that's pretty cool. You have that option as well. Takeaway here is there's more features than anyone could possibly talk about in one video. And if they're just talking about features, they're really not reviewing the product. They're not telling you about, what is this product all about? And I'll tell you what this product is all about. This product is all about changing my mind about receivers, with music especially. Most home theater receivers do a good enough, great job even, with home theater, with television. This one's better though. This is the best music experience I've had with a home theater receiver. Instantly, everything was larger, bigger, more separated, seamless. There was no shoutiness with any of the vocals. And this was on mixed speakers. So I didn't have a matched front and center, but it made it sound like I had a matched front and center. And it made it sound like there were no peaks, no valleys, no issues at all. I wasn't knocking my popcorn over to grab the remote control to get into the settings to change them up. That's another thing, you can change the settings from the app. So you don't have to go into the interface on the TV and then go through the ridiculous menus that these receivers have. You don't have to do any of that. The biggest paradigm shift for me though was with 2-channel music. It may not be better than your 2-channel system, but I'm gonna tell you, it's probably not far off from even your favorite 2-channel system. It's really amazing, and frankly, I don't know, blown away. Because at this point, why do you need a 2? If you do movies and music and television, and you only have one room, you don't have a dedicated listening room or whatever it is, if you want one component that can do everything exceptionally well, the Pioneer is it. It gives you everything you need in here, including a phono stage. And it minimizes or even eliminates the need for any type of room treatment. Let that sink in for a second. How much are you going to spend? Even if you're building your own room treatment, you're putting a big thick towel and a big, I don't know, wooden frame and then putting some speaker grill cover over the top of it and then printing a globe or something on it. Even if you're doing that, how many hours are you going to spend doing that? If you can and you enjoy that thing, awesome. I would say this thing is saving you hundreds, if not over $1,000 in room treatment because of DAC. It's like getting a free receiver. Add to that the best movie experience I've had through a home theater system. Got a real winner here, Pioneer. This thing is incredible. So back to the Matrix. I know the sound isn't real. I know when I play my music, DAC is telling my brain that it's perfect, spacious, detailed, instruments are separated. And you know, after 30 years of listening to music, watching movies through home theater, you know what I realized? Ignorance is bliss.